What's up, everybody? It is your boy Tyler, and I have another fantastic episode with you. And joining me on my show today is the final boss in New England MMA. She's an absolute gangster, and she joins me. You're with me, Hilarie Rose. This is like the third or fourth one I think we've done since
I
I've started this whole thing up.
you. I'm excited to be here and talk to you and talk fights. I always look forward to when we, sit down and have a conversation.
Well, hopefully we don't go as long in between interviews like we did just
I
this last go around. It's been like a year, but holy cow, it has been a year, right? Tough. It's been a tough year. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. A lot
No
of
doubt.
ups, a lot of downs, and I really kind of want to like pause there and talk more broadly about your martial journey. Like you're that type of fighter that when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, Hilarie, she's been fighting for like ever. You've been fighting in like the pro scene for many, 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 many years. But then I look back, I'm like, oh shit, actually, that's not really true. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you've been doing this for a while, but you're just a very active person.
Yeah.
You're active. It's volume. It's all about getting back out there constantly, constantly, constantly. And for young pros that are out there like that have also followed your journey, like what are some of like the key things that you've learned over your years of being a professional that you think are really important for people to understand, especially if they're thinking about maybe making the jump up to your level one day?
My biggest thing is just, to be patient. I think that a lot of amateurs rush to go pro and it's not always the best idea. I think that it's not so much that I think that it's bad coaching, that it's also sometimes bad coaching is that, someone's like 3-0, 4-0 as an amateur and they're like, all right, I'm going to go pro now. Where I find it really important that like amateur is your practice. Like get your MMA fights, get your boxing matches, get your grappling events, do some Muay Thai events, get comfortable being in that competitive atmosphere because no matter how many times you're under the lights and you go to fight, it's always nerve wracking, at least for me. Like for me, I'm nervous every time I fight. Like, but that's like your adrenaline and you're naturally supposed to feel that way. But I feel like the more practice you have, the better you are when you go to fight. Like I don't, or what is it like not MLB, but what is like pre MLB? Like those people have to have a ton of like baseball things and be on different teams. Like no one just gets there right away really, really
Mm-hmm.
fast. Like it's a buildup. And I think that amateurs nowadays just are like, well, I want to go pro. I want to get paid. I, want people to know who I am. But you can build yourself up as an amateur and create a name for yourself, when you're an amateur. I think that there's a lot of people out there who are already kind of doing a really good job of that. But just amateurs, they go pro way too early. And I had 8 amateur MMA fights and I wanted 10. And after 8, my coaches were like, I think it's time to make the transition. And of course, like as a pro, I was like, damn, I wish I did a few more Muay Thai fights. I wish I did a few more grappling events. Not that I think that it really pays due towards where I'm at now, but it's just practice is so important. It's just like being in the gym, but also getting that competitive feel wherever you're going, boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. Getting comfortable being nervous and the adrenaline dumps. I just think people rush. I think you don't need to rush, especially if you're young. Like if you're 22, 23 years old, like you have so much time. Like you're young. Like let your body build up and get all that, knowledge. And then once you're pro, you'll feel more comfortable once you're there. Cause even for me, like my first maybe 2, 3 pro fights, I still felt like I was, in a daze of a fight. Like you're just kind of going through wins and you don't always, even if you win or you lose, like just cage awareness and just being there and knowing how to handle your emotions and deal with adversity when you're in a fight. I think that you need to have really, really tough fights. I have this teammate, Danny Waldberg. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his fights, but he had his first fight was like a back and forth war against this kid from Sityodtong. And I said, every time I see him, I'm like, Danny, I have over 20 fights, amateur, pro. I said, I've never had a fight like that. I'm like, every amateur needs a fight like that. I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a pro and I've never even had a fight like that. And then he had another fight for New England Fight, same sort of thing. He was getting his ass beat, came back, was able to get a win. And it's just, people need those fights before they go to the high level, because then that's when you're getting those type of fights. You're meeting someone who's just as good as you,
Mm-hmm.
if not better, and you're gonna have a good competition. Like you need those fights in order to be comfortable, at the highest of levels.
You're absolutely right. If there's one thing I would add, it would also be this, like for amateurs that are out there, you are not only a fighter, I know you're also a coach. I know you spend a lot of time coaching amateurs and being and working in corners and stuff. And I'm about to say something that you always tell a lot of the people that train under you. It's if you're an amateur, you should be in the DMs of like the belt holder for wherever it is that you live. If there's somebody in your weight class and there's a monster out there and she's like 7-0 and she's like the flyweight champion or whatever, it's like you should be in that girl's DM saying like, hey, yo, I like what you do, let's fight. Like you want to fight the gangsters out there because that's how you're going to get better. And I always tell people like, who gives a shit if you're like I don't know, a 1-4 amateur. If you had like 5 bouts and they are all against like elite competition,
Yeah.
that's how you get better.
Long run. Like those losses and like really hard fights, whether you win or lose or it's a split decision, this or that, like that benefits you and makes you like, hard, like you're ready to go. So I just think rush way too quick.
Yeah, you don't want your first hard fight to be in the pros. That's for damn sure. Like you want to have experienced getting your ass whipped, maybe losing a fight or two, and
Yeah.
and that way you have like a baseline to go off of. Like, hey, I've been here before. Like, I'm not panicking. Like, I know what I need to do. I've been in this situation before, and it's interesting because the other thing, it's like you rush, you get up, and let's say you fight locally as a pro and you do well, the UFC picks you up, you do well with them, and now all of a sudden you find yourself in the Shark Tank, and it's like, do you have any idea how hard it is to make it to that level and stay there? We always talk about getting to that level, but not enough
Yeah.
conversation is we don't have enough conversations about what it takes to stay.
I totally agree. And the easiest part is getting there. Like, yes, I'm not in the UFC, but I've seen a lot of people who aren't as good as me, but maybe have had better records or better outcomes get in the UFC, have 3 UFC fights and go 0-3, and then they're cut.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I see that more often than not. Like a lot of girls that I would have liked to compete against or still may have the opportunity to compete against who have gone in the UFC. And I'm like, oh fuck, they're in the UFC. Like, when am I gonna get my opportunity? And then I mean, I'm still, local or doing LFA or all these other events. And then these people are cut. So I think like even though my career is starting a little bit slower than I would have liked it to, obviously that's on me and how I am in fights and, win, lose, whatever. It's just, I'm grateful for where I'm at right now because I think like even last time we had this conversation, you know, going on Contender Series and fighting Cheyenne opened my eyes to a lot of things that I lacked. So it was, I had that first really tough fight, like we were just saying, against someone of my level at Contender Series. I fought a bunch of cans before, and like, no offense to them, but like,
Mm-hmm.
no bad winning records. Like, and not that my team was setting me up for failure. They wanted me to get wins. They wanted me to be comfortable, but I needed that really hard fucking match first so that I was comfortable. So I think to myself now, like, oh, imagine I won that contract and then I had to compete against one of those really, really good girls and then I didn't do as well. Like, even though my record isn't as great and I'm a few steps behind where I'd like to be, I think that in long term, it's going to benefit me. Where a lot of those other girls have already been cut, and maybe they won't get that second opportunity to get back into the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it goes.
I think what's even worse, before we switch topics here, but what's even worse is you'll see somebody get an opportunity in like PFL or Bellator, and if you flame out of there, oh yeah, that's going to be a tough road because
No doubt.
for optics, the UFC by and large, like they're not going to want to touch somebody that flamed out of Bellator. Like you're going to have to really, uh, yeah, you're really going to have to put together something special for them to even sniff you.
Yeah, you need to be on like a fight or like Michael Chandler situation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where he's an agent and he obviously was champ and he was great. But I mean, you even see him. No, I mean, he's fighting the best people in the world, but he has more losses now in the UFC than he's
Yeah.
had years of Bellator. And he's a savage. Like he could
Mm-hmm.
beat anybody in that top 15, but you reach the top 5, all those fucks are going to be as tough as they get. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Words of wisdom for all you young fighters out there. I hope that you take some of that stuff to heart. Hilarie, I want to talk about your most recent fight. You fought against a very, very tough girl. I've seen her fight a few different times. Her name's Gabriella Gulfin.
Yeah.
She is somebody that is a prime example of somebody that people sleep on. They look at her and they just, bleh, whatever. It's going to be more fodder for Hilarie or whoever else has to fight her. I don't
Yeah.
get that impression. I've seen that girl fight before. She fought in Bellator a few times. She's been on the wrong end of a few split decisions, in my personal opinion,
I agree.
particularly in Bellator. I've seen her fight. I thought it was a really tough girl that you were having to fight when you met her in the cage at Cage Titans 54. I looked at that one. I was like, that's gonna be a fight. Like a lot of people are gonna look at that and just kind of blow Gulfin off and think this is gonna be an easy fight for Hilarie. And like, I don't think that. I was like, I think that's a tough ass fight.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your opinion because a lot happened in that fight. I thought you looked incredible against a really difficult opponent. There are a lot of things that I saw you do that I was like, oh wow, I like this, I like this, I like this. I know you didn't get the result that you wanted, but talk me through it. Like when you unpack that fight, I'm sure you've watched it a few different times. What do you see when you look back on that fight today?
When I go and I watch that fight, obviously, I made a mistake and she capitalized. Like that's the biggest thing about fighting is anything can happen, whether it's the first minute into the fight or you have 15 seconds left in a round. I felt really great in that fight. I never underestimate anybody that I'm fighting. I saw Gabby Gulfin fight Kylie O'Hearn. I got to commentate that fight. So I've seen her up and close and I've seen the skill that she has. She has like a weird style where
Mm-hmm.
like kind of pulls random like wrestling moves out of her ass and like but she's a very forward pressure fighter and she cracks. I didn't underestimate her ability at all. I felt very comfortable for 4 minutes and 50 seconds of that fight. I think from the second the bell rang, until obviously I got caught in a rear naked choke and she choked me. I felt really, really good. I've been really improving on my wrestling and my boxing, and I think that I was able to show a lot of my wrestling and my transitions in that fight. But she's also very hard to put away.
Mm-hmm.
I had her back. I tried to choke her. The biggest thing that I got out of that fight, not out of the fight, but it was so slippery. I had never been in a fight where it was so slippery.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was because it was later in the evening or it was me. I was too sweaty. She was sweaty. But it was very slippery. Like it was hard to finish her, even though I had her back and was able to transition. But she's good. Like I like watching her fights, and I agree that she's definitely been on the wrong end of some decisions.
Mm-hmm.
She has no quit in her. Like she's goes, 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 goes. I mean, she fought I think the one time she really got finished was by Erin Blanchfield, who's like one of the best in the UFC right now. Like that girl is on another level good. So I mean that doesn't surprise me at
Mm-hmm.
all. But she's very skilled. She's very quirky and goofy, and I kind of like that about her. Like even when I met her at like weigh-ins, it's never like that animosity. She was just kind of like, I really have to pee. Like, can I just that and then like come back? Like she's just very chill. But she was great. And again, she is a smart fighter. She capitalized on a mistake that I made, and ultimately she was able to get the win. And I won't lie when I say that I was extremely upset after that fight, because I was winning and
Mm-hmm.
I was mad at myself for making a mistake. I went upstairs into like the Cage Titans like locker room or wherever they have you, and I was throwing chairs. Like I won't even lie. Like I was so
Mm-hmm.
mad at myself because I know how good I am and the ability that I have to win. And I was just so disappointed. I even for like a week was like, I think I'm done. I think I'm done fighting. I think that I really wanted to take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it for a few days. And obviously, this is my life. This is everything to me. I think that I was just in distraught that I allowed something like that to happen when I knew I was winning and I was doing a really good job and there was only seconds left. If I just stuck it out and like just kept going or went to sleep or whatever it is. Um, yeah, so I mean it bugs me, but it is what it is. That's the fight game. And, good for her for capitalizing on something, a mistake that I made. That's something that you want to happen in a fight. If someone's, you know, tries to attack your leg and then gives up their back, I would have done the same exact thing. So
Yeah.
who am I to
So
be?
When did you so you unpack the fight, you're upset for a little bit, kind of thinking like, like I don't really know what the path forward is. Like when did you finally like get to a point where you're like, you know what, like shit happens, I'm gonna move on. This is me. Like I'm not done yet. I'm gonna go back out there and I'm gonna prove some things to people. Like when did you like get into that? Like when did you reframe your mind and kind of like get to that point after that fight?
It, usually after fights and after losses, like I'm definitely upset. And I'll watch it with my coaches. But it was like a good week. I was
Mm-hmm.
a solid week where I, in my mind, was like, I don't think I'm gonna fight again because I have such a high expectation for myself and I anticipated myself to be in a different place right now in my career.
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm two steps forward and then I'm always one fucking step back. Like it drives me insane. And I think, I was emotional. I was upset that I lost, especially, I hadn't fought at home in a really long time. So I was excited to fight at home in front of my family, my friends. So I was just upset. And, I talked to my coaches and I talked to, I'm very friendly with like Joe Lozon and his coach and talk to them. And they were like, don't make this decision now. Like you're upset. You're going to be upset. And I was like, maybe coaching is what I was meant to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm a great coach. I have really good feedback. And I pay attention. Like the thing is I care. So I think because I'm skilled ultimately of myself that I'm able to read and see things, like my coaches do. But it took me about a week and then I got back into training. I took some time, like a few days off. And then I was like, this is all I do and all I care about. So
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't let that one little mistake that I made, alter my decision to fight again.
Well, you do have another opportunity to fight again. It's coming up in a couple weeks.
Yep.
I don't know why you insist on fighting girls that I like, but you do. You know what? Like, yeah, I'm gonna like make a list for you. Be like, okay, these are the Tyler approved fighters that you're allowed to fight.
No, I'll put those on top of my list.
Right on your refrigerator. But in any event, you have an opportunity to go up there and fight Glory Watson. She
Yep.
is a young, up and coming, talented fighter, also in New England. I know you're in Mass and she's in Maine, but you guys are basically like next door neighbors.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this, and in the back of my mind, watching both of your careers and just how things have been going for both of you, in the back of my mind, this fight was always kind of out there. I was thinking to myself, like, I think this is probably only going to be a matter of time
Yeah.
until like they meet. Um, so I wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Like, this is a girl that you know a lot about already. You've spent some time. We'll call it a sparring match, I guess, if you will. It was a kickboxing thing. Me personally, like I looked at that and like maybe some unsavory podcasters would look at that and probably make more of it than probably what it was. It was
Yeah.
2 years ago. It was sparring. It was kickboxing, and I also kind of looked at it, I'm like, okay, cool, but MMA, like this is where it counts, and it's completely different. And I personally don't put much stock into it. I'm just kind of like, okay, they might know a little bit about each other, like more so than they would any of their other opponents. But talk about an opportunity to go in there and fight somebody like this. How excited are you, number one, to like get an opportunity to fight against one of the best girls in New England? That's got to be pretty exciting for you.
For sure. And I'm super excited. Obviously Glory and I have fought before in a kickboxing fight. I knew inevitably that we would end up fighting at some point. She obviously has less fights than me and started her pro career a little bit after me. So she's still on her up and coming, or like she's, on her way up. I have like 4 or 5 more fights than her. I think she's 4-1 now. 3-1, 4-1.
She's 4-1.
Yeah, 4. So I mean, I obviously have like 6 or so fights on her, but I think she maybe had more amateur fights than me.
Mm-hmm.
But she also fought at like various weight classes. Like she fought at 35, she fought at 25, she's fought at 115. And I have a lot of respect for Glory. We've shared, you know, fight cards and things like that before. We've been around each other, obviously. So I'm excited to fight her. I'm obviously going into her territory,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm going up to Maine. She's a huge hit up in Maine. Even when her and I fought the kickboxing match, everybody was there for Glory. Everyone wanted to see Glory. I think it was the first time I ever really got booed anywhere or fight or when we were fighting each other. Um, which is fine. Like, I don't care. None of that. And I honestly expect the exact same thing. Like when we fight in a month, I totally expect to get booed, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for her. She definitely always comes to fight. She has an interesting style. I don't think she's particularly good at one certain thing. I think that she does a lot of various different things. But yeah, I'm excited to fight her, especially in an MMA atmosphere. I think that she's going to be more surprised by me when we fight than she maybe was when we were kickboxing. I think she anticipates me to strike with her, which I believe that I have better striking than her. Not that I'm taking anything away from her. My fundamentals are extremely solid, and I find that her fundamentals aren't as clean and as useful as mine. So I'm curious. I'm curious what her game plan towards fighting me is, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. Her and I both love to fight, so there'll be smiles thrown around throughout the fight. I'm sure we'll crack each other and hit each other, and be having fun the entire time. So, but it is a fight, so and it counts for both of us, right? When it was Muay Thai or kickboxing, it was kind of like you said, a sparring match. Even though I felt really good in that fight.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like it's not the same, especially when the cage comes into play and clinching and grabbing legs and being able to take people down. But yeah, I'm not sure what her game plan will be, but I don't think that she's going to throw anything at me that I haven't seen before. So we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be fun. And I also know that when I go up there, I have to get a finish. I don't think I can leave it to the judges, especially because they favor her. And we've seen bad decisions in the past. I think even she knows that. Like she's openly said that she thought that her last fight, the girl won and that she didn't win. So in my head, all I'm thinking about is getting a finish, whether that's on the ground, whether it's standing, doesn't really matter.
If I were in your situation, like I think I'd have a similar mindset. It's like we're going out
Yeah.
there and like I can't leave it to the judges. I have to go out there and fight the fight that I want, and I need to hunt for that finish. So, yeah, I mean, from a strategic standpoint, I think you're right there. I think that makes total sense to me.
Every fight that I have, that's my goal. But based off what I've seen in the past, I really, really genuinely believe that I have to get a finish in order. I can't leave it to the judges. I don't think that the will, whether I dominate her the entire fight or not, will be in my favor, which is disappointing when you think about like judging in the MMA community. You definitely see bad fights, but or bad decisions. But watching her last fight and seeing like 30-27, like it was just ridiculous.
It was I'm not a judge, but it was a close fight, and all I'll say is I thought Gulfin did really well. I thought Gulfin they both did well. It was a really close fight, but 30-27, yeah, 30-27, I'm not a judge. I'm just simply saying that's a little sus. I think that's fair.
Like she's aware of that too. Like I watched, I obviously watch her fights. I'm sure she's watching mine. And she's aware of that. Like, and she's a kind person. Like she's nice. Like she's, not out there causing trouble and trying to be, well, I'm better than you, this and that, blah, blah. She's very kind. She loves to fight like me. So I think it'll be fun. I think we'll have fun. And I think that the fans will have fun watching us fight. So.
Okay, well, may the best woman win. Hilarie, I wanted to just simply pause here and think a little bit about, you go into Maine and if you get that result that you're looking for, that definitely puts some wind in your sails and gets you primed to just kind of like have a lot more options. And that could mean a lot, whether that be back in LFA, whether that could be in like PFL or something entirely different. A win over her gives you that sort of ammunition that I think you need in order to kind of explore beyond what's happening in your area. So I kind of wanted to pause and ask you, like, when you think about your 2023, like, what are some of the things that you're trying to accomplish this year?
Every year, not every year, but ultimately my goal get 3 to 4 fights. I want to be as active as I can be, especially with the unfortunateness of my record. I'm
Mhm.
6-5. I want to get in the UFC. If I have a 6-5 record, the UFC isn't looking at me.
Right.
It'd be different if I was getting highlight reel knockouts. But after my last fight, it was, I had a really great win against Tiana at LFA. Tiana, yeah. At LFA. And then obviously I anticipated a win with Gulfin. I felt really good. I lost. It is what it is. So it's, 2 steps forward, 1 steps back always. So this year I'm just kind of really hoping to take a fucking leap over the bridge and, no more steps back and just kind of keep the momentum going. So I know, like I talk to my coaches about this all the time, I need, like 3 in a row to get looked at. So
Mhm.
to make sure that I go in every time I fight. And I hope that, this year I can get at least 3 or 4 wins in and just get myself back on the notice board.
Hey, oh, you are primed. You have an opportunity to do that. And Hillary, when I think about you, I think that, if you want to, I think you have a lot of MMA left in you. You're in your
Yeah,
athletic prime right now. And, the Tyler advice is just simply, hey, as long as you're out there, as long as you're enjoying it, and as long as it's giving you something that's inside of you that like gives you that scratches that itch, keep doing it because you're going to get to a point in time where like and it's inevitable, like it's like you can't do this forever, right? It's
right.
like there's a limited part of your life where you can actually do this,
Yeah.
because when you're 40 something years old it's not even an option. So that's something to
It's
think about.
it's scary to look at the end, even though like I'm not near the end and I'm not at the end, but it is scary to think like that. Like it's not like I'm, an attorney and can like, work until I'm 75 years old. Um,
Sure.
I can't do that. So it's weird to think that yes, I just hit 30 and that I had my first amateur fight at 22 years old. So to think that like I've already been fighting for 8 years is really crazy to me. Because time goes by so fast and like you have all these fights and they happen and then you go pro and then you come, fighting is just so much up and down, up and down. Regardless of whether you're undefeated and you make it all the way to the UFC or you have some bumps in the road, it's always up and down, up and down. So it's such a cool sport to be a part of. And it's not, you know, uh, it's fun. We're the small percentage of people, especially as a female, to be doing like a male dominated sport. So to just be out there doing that and, being a 1% of, um, this fight lifestyle is just really cool. And I'm really appreciative of that. I think that as I get older, this sounds really dumb, but like I think when I was younger, like as I get older and now that I'm 30, I think when I was younger, people didn't look at the fighting as weird. But now that I'm like an adult, everyone's like, oh, you're still fighting? And I'm like, well, yeah, this is like what I fucking do. This is all like this is my lifestyle. Where most people my age are like getting married and having babies and like, working these jobs that they fucking hate. So I don't want to be that person. I want to do what I love until I can't do it anymore. And then, when my second part of life happens, I'm living in my life right now, but this is just a section of what my life is. And then when fighting is over, I'll have a whole new lifestyle. So I'm just absorbing what I can and, doing the best I can. So it's fun.
Squeeze all the juice out of it while you can. I think you're very cerebral. I think it makes total sense. Hillary, before I let you go, I know you have a lot of people that work with you to make sure that you're taken care of and that make Team Rose like what it is. Who are those people? Who do you need to shout out?
Most importantly, I just want to shout out my coaches, Matt Martin and Tom Hafers. They've had my back since I was 14 years old and walked into the gym and didn't even know that I had potential to be a fighter. I have so many teammates in the gym. USMMA has built this tiny little fight team. Before it was just like me and my teammate Shane and like one other, but now we're really growing and we have this little group. So I'm just grateful for all of them, like especially Ash. Like, Ash, she's an animal, she's a killer. So to have someone young and an amateur and as good as she is really grateful. She helps me get better. I think she doesn't even realize how useful she is to me and how much she's helped me improve overall. But also shout out to my strength and conditioning coach, Mike Perry. I didn't start strength and conditioning until I was, or like a coached strength and conditioning until I was getting ready for Contender series, and he has drastically changed how I feel about my body and how much stronger I am. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. And without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at, especially physically. So I'm just super grateful for him. So it's fun. It's been a long ride, but we're still only at the beginning. So we'll see how it goes.
We will see how it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out Hilarie's fight. I'm going to put all the information for that in the description of this video. It happens in a couple weeks. You're not going to want to miss it. Hilarie, always a pleasure to have you. Always a pleasure to have you.
Always, I always do. It's always so great.
And we'll do it again very, very soon. Yes, I wish you the
talk post fight.
Yes, ma'am. That sounds like a wonderful time. Good luck on your fight.
Thank you so much.